So we start off this chapter right after Deku's smash, and everything's still disintegrating around them. So Deku thinks about it and remembers that Shigaraki's quirk is to disintegrate. So he figures out this is just Shigaraki's quirk, but now it's more. It's plus ultra. So they decide to get everyone out of the city, get them up in the air. And as they're doing that, Burning, Endeavor's sidekick, calls to the hospital team. None of the hospital team answers, so we go over to Shigaraki, who's now in a giant crater on one piece of land. There's one piece of lab equipment left. He goes over to it, pulls out what looks like the quirk-killing bullets, and says how sad it is that they didn't make it. Then he calls over to Makia and tells Makia to come to him. Then we jump over to the mansion, and we see Tokoyami flying away with Hawks, and he signals to Fat Gun. Fat Gun tells him to go to the back where there's help. Then we see Dobby catch up to Mr. Compress, and Mr. Compress remarks how Twice's death has affected Toga, and now she is on a killing spree, pretending to be heroes. We start off this chapter with Endeavor coming in on Shigaraki, and he uses this move called Hell Curtain, which engulfs Shigaraki in flames. As Shigaraki's in the middle of the flames, Endeavor comes in with a punch trying to knock him out, but Shigaraki's still moving within those flames and tries to touch Endeavor. Endeavor's able to get out of the way, but he notices that he is being burned with the flames, but he's actually regenerating, so Shigaraki does have a regenerative quirk. As they're fighting, Endeavor radios back to everyone saying, hey, we need to expand the battlefield, civilians need to be moved further away, this isn't going to be good. And then as he's radioing, we hear Shigaraki in the background saying, I want the one power all for one couldn't get, and that is one for all. And as he says one for all, Deku and Bakugo overhear it, and they realize that he's going to be coming for Deku. And they're like, hey, we forgot stuff. We need to go back, because they need to get away from the civilians. As they're going back, Shigaraki uses the power search that he stole from Pixie Bop, and he goes directly to where Deku's going to be. This chapter of Deku radioing to Endeavor saying, like, hey, let me know if he changes course. Endeavor's like, yeah, like, I have time. Oh, wait, he just changed course. And Deku's like, okay, I can't explain why, but I'm leading him away from the civilians. And as he's leading him away, he goes to talk to Kacchan. It's like, hey, Kacchan, did you hear that? And Kacchan's right next to him. It's like, yeah, I fucking heard it. And Deku's like, why are you still here? And Kacchan says, I'm the only one who knows what's going on with you. Plus, he's the reason that I'm the reason All Might lost his powers. I'm going to be the one to take him down. And then we get a little insight on what Kacchan's really thinking, and that's he needs to keep up with Deku because Deku keeps going beyond him. And we get to a point where Shigaraki ends up catching up to Deku, and Deku's gonna go about to hit him, and Gran Torino just swoops in and pulls Deku out of the way and is like, kid, are you an idiot? You can't beat that. He's like, the rest of us heroes who are still here can. We'll try. And as Ryoko goes in for a punch, it looks like Shigaraki touches her, and then Aizawa comes out of nowhere. This chapter with news reports coming in about what's happening in the city, and we actually get to see All Might and Eri. They're actually at UA. All Might is not at Tartarus like we all thought. And then we jump back into the action. Aizawa is still staring at Shigaraki, blocking Shigaraki's power. He actually has Manuel keeping his eyes watered so he doesn't have to blink. And so while Shigaraki's powerless, Endeavor takes the opportunity of one of his sidekicks, who has a trajectory quirk, to have him fling himself directly at Shigaraki. But unfortunately, Shigaraki's still fast, still agile, and able to get out of the way. Dr. Ujiko makes the comment, it's not quite All Might level, but it's pretty close. And then as he's getting out of the way, he radios to the Nomus and tells them to kill everyone. Yes, the Nomus are alive. They're not quite intelligent, they're not the high ends, but they're close to it. Then we see Gran Torino with Bakugo and Deku telling Deku, we cannot let him have your quirk, you have to stay hidden. But then they hear Aizawa's in trouble. And obviously that's a possibility, but I want to point out a different possibility of someone who may die. I did not talk about this specific panel in the manga recap, but I just want to bring attention to it now. We see Fuyumi as a teacher going about her day, Inko just going about her day, my good boy Natsu just sitting in class, great boy. Then we see Rei still in the hospital, but then we see Mitsuki. Mitsuki is sitting there and she's looking at a book. The book says Katsuki Memories. She's looking at memories of her baby, okay? And like, I don't want to say that's gonna happen, but like, just this panel alone makes me think it's a good possibility that Bakugo might die. I don't want it to happen. That's not something I want, but like, why show us this and then like not put him in a very life-threatening and like situation? He is in a life-threatening situation being so close to Shigaraki, but So I believe this is the panel you're referring to. This is right after Shigaraki was able to knock down Endeavor and Ryoku. If you can't tell, Ryoku's right under Endeavor. And he stands there and says, was it this hand or was it the other one? I'll have to wait for that one to grow if it was the other one. And he's essentially just mocking Hero Society because this was what All Might did when he defeated All for One, and this is what Endeavor did after he fought the Nomu, and everyone watched and were like hoping he would be the next symbol that they need. Not that he even thinks he can become the next symbol. Off topic. Anyhow, so this is Shigaraki mocking Hero Society, and we know cameras are there. We know cameras are seeing this, and we know the whole of Japan is seeing this and seeing that their number one is being taken down by this villain. And it's devastating, and we have to see how it turns out. Start off this chapter with Deku coming in on Shigaraki and making the statement that the worst case scenario isn't him losing One for All, but actually losing Mr. Aizawa. As he's doing that, Bakugo sets off one of his AP shots, and Shigaraki says, that's not very impressive. And he starts to go for Bakugo, and then Endeavor jumps in and splits them all up, and he asks, where's Shoto? Bakugo and Deku say, it's just us two. So he says, this can't be helped, so Bakugo, you guard Deku, because we know that's who Shigaraki wants. As he says that, Shigaraki starts saying, come to me, my little brother. And then Shigaraki snaps out of it and is like, wait, that wasn't me. Master, this is my body, this is my power now, this is my will. I will be greater than what you wore. And so all the heroes end up going in on him, and Gran Torino ends up getting close to him and says, you will no longer hurt Shimura Nana's name. And as he says that, Shigaraki's like, who? Because he doesn't know whose grandma it was. And then we go over to the mansion, and we start off this chapter with Jiro listening to the ground, telling the rest of the students that she hears something big coming. We switch over to Gigantomachia fighting off Mount Lady as he's trying to make it to Shigaraki. On Gigantomachia's back, we see the entire League of Villains that is left. We see Toga, Mr. Compress, Spinner, and Dobby, as well as Skeptic, who is very upset to be away from Redestro. And then we see Kamui Wood with Midnight on his back, because Midnight's trying to get up to Gigantomachia's face so she can use her quirk to put him to sleep. Unfortunately, Mr. Compress sees that and knocks her off of Kamui Wood's back, kind of taking her out of the fight, as Gigantomachia pushes Mount Lady out of his way to get closer to Shigaraki. Well, as Midnight's on the ground, she radios to Momo and tells Momo, hey, I know this is illegal, but you need to make a sedative to put him to sleep, because that is the only thing that is going to take him out of the fight. Dead? Of course not. She still has plenty to teach us back at school. Love the optimism. So in this chapter, we start off with Momo making multiple vials of sedative, hopefully to take down Gigantomachia. As she was making those, Class 1A and 1B were setting up traps using Minetta's sticky balls and Shiro's tape to stop him, and Class 1B's Mudman's mud to hopefully sink him down so they can get a better shot at his mouth. They do end up stopping him using those tricks, but unfortunately they cannot get his mouth open. As they're trying to get his mouth open, they encounter a League of Villains on his back, and the League of Villains end up using Dobby's fire to make a ring around Gigantomachia so they can't get anywhere near him. As they're standing there seeing what's happening, Mount Lady, who's been on Gigantomachia's leg this entire time, gets up and starts to pry open his mouth to give the kids a clear shot to get the sedative in. Start off this chapter of Shigaraki quoting his father, saying, heroes will hurt their own families just to help complete strangers. And then he starts to go on about why he believes the Hero Society is corrupt. As he's going on, Endeavor lines up for an attack and blasts his flames at him. Even though Shigaraki's quirk is being canceled by Aizawa right now, he's able to jump out of the way. As he's jumping out of the way, Gran Torino jumps in and tries to hit an attack on him. Shigaraki ends up grabbing him, and as he grabs him, Gran Torino has a flashback of when Shimura Nana gave her son up in hopes to save him from All for One. And as Gran Torino is being slammed to the ground by Shigaraki, he wonders if that was the right choice or not. Deku, seeing this happen, can't help but try to save Gran Torino, but Shigaraki ends up flying past him towards Aizawa, but Ryoku is able to stop him, and Deku is able to catch back up to them using Black Whip to contain him. As he's being contained, Shigaraki thinks, they don't know I have this, and shows the quirk killing bullets in his hands. So in this chapter, we start off with Mina bursting through the flames using her super move, Acid Man. As she gets closer to Gigantomachia, she sees his face and she realizes she recognizes him. He's the giant she saved her friends from in middle school. And that causes her to hesitate. As she's hesitating, Gigantomachia is getting Mount Lady off of his back and starts reaching for Mina. Mina ends up losing grip of her sedative, but Kirishima comes in, grabs the sedative, and pushes Mina out of the way. On the ground, Tetsu grabs Mina and says, even though me and Kirishima have the same type of quirk, I'm affected by fire, so he's the better man for this job. Kirishima ends up getting closer to Gigantomachia. As he's checking on League of Villains, Toga sees Kirishima, throws a knife, and breaks the sedative Kirishima has. But Kirishima has Mina's sedative, throws it right into Gigantomachia's mouth, and gets a direct shot. Momo says as long as he keeps moving, it'll work faster. Then we jump over to Endeavor with Shigaraki.